Good morning. This coming Shabbos is what is known as Shabbos Mevorchim, the Shabbos that falls out prior to Rosh Chodesh, in which we say the special tefillah that we daven for a good, healthy, successful month, as well as announcing the day. And we are all familiar with the circumstance and with the event. Now, where does that come from? So the tefillah that we say, the Yiratzon, actually comes from the Gemara. It is what Rav used to say every day, every tefillah, at the end of his tefillah. The Gemara on Daf Tez Zayin Amud Beis has a discussion as to how one should end their tefillah. That after we finished the bracha of Hamevarech Hasam Yisrael Bas Shalom, what should be the concluding paragraph? And it quotes all the Amoraim that used to say different things. And one, that's where we rule, obviously, that's where it comes from, to say that the tefillah of Elokai Nitzor Lishoni Meirah that we say at the end of tefillah. However, one of the tefillah said by Rav was not the one which we say at the end of Shemona Esrei, but in fact is the one that we've adopted to the tefillah of prior to Rosh Chodesh. That Rav used to say, the Yiratzon Lefanecha Hashem Elokeinu Shetizim Lanu Chaim Aruchim, Chaim Shel Shalom, Chaim Shel Tova, etc. That bracha that we say before Rosh Chodesh, Rav used to conclude with for his Shemona Esrei. So even though we do not do that every Shemona Esrei, we do in fact adopt that when by Shabbos Mevorchim, when benching Rosh Chodesh. Now, what is the purpose of benching Rosh Chodesh on the Shabbos prior to Rosh Chodesh? So the answer is there could be one of two purposes. It could be in place of the Kiddush HaChodesh. We know that they used to sanctify the moon in front of Beis Din. So one approach is that it could be a replacement for that. The second approach that could theoretically be is that it's just just an announcement of the day of Rosh Chodesh. Now, which is it? So the Magen Avraham points out, and he quotes that there's a minhag that b'Shabbos shelifnei Rosh Chodesh mevarchen hachodesh, that the Shabbos prior to Rosh Chodesh we bench Rosh Chodesh, and he writes from the Sefer Yereim de ein zeh kiddush Beis Din. It's not in place of the kiddush hachodesh that took place in Beis Din. Ela shemodim leha'olam matai Rosh Chodesh. It's just to inform the world, to inform the people, the community, when is Rosh Chodesh. And as the Mishnah Berurah points out, that's important to know because there are certain halachas of Rosh Chodesh. Many women have the practice not to do malacha. We have certain additions to tefillah, etc. So it's important that the tzibor know. And if we're not always keeping track of when Rosh Chodesh is, then we won't know. And so in order to make sure everyone knows, that is why we bench Rosh Chodesh. That seems to be the primary reason. However, there is a hint of the Kiddush HaChodesh, even though the poskim seem to agree that it's not Kiddush HaChodesh itself, it's not in place of what took place in Beis Din, but as a zecher for that, as to commemorate that, the practice is to stand for the tefillah. Finally, Rav Soloveitchik points out, I heard in the name of Rav Soloveitchik, that the reason we take out the Torah is because it's a tefillah which is meant for the tzibor, and it highlighted by the statement of Chaverim Kol Yisrael, that all Bnei Yisrael are one, and therefore Torah and Torah is what ultimately unites us. So really what Rosh Chodesh is, what mentioning Rosh Chodesh is for, is to make sure people know when Rosh Chodesh is, which is why we don't do it before Tishrei, because everyone knows when Rosh Hashanah is. However, there's this added element that it's a commemoration for Kiddush HaChodesh, and that's why we have the practice to stand for that as well. Have a fantastic Shabbos.